Hey guys, remember Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 4, Episode 13, boom, and I was definitely really looking forward to this episode. Even though I thought last week's was a bit filler, I was definitely looking forward to it because I actually thought this was going to be the conclusion for the LMD story. I thought I read something that Episode 13 was, and I was definitely wrong. No, this is definitely not the conclusion for the LMD storyline. Nevertheless, this was a great episode, and I definitely did enjoy it overall. There were a couple things that I was a little bit, not upset, but disappointed with. I will definitely say that. But for the most part, this was an extremely revealing episode that finally gave us that much-needed backstory on Radcliffe that I've definitely been waiting for. So let's just get into this episode because I definitely do want to get into it because there is quite a lot we learn in this episode. So we start off in Spain, and Coulson is at a sidewalk cafe talking to Mac over his earbud about how he often feels, how he often follows his worst instincts. And recently, he's heard May's voice in his head telling him to stay on mission, and Mac then spots their target, and Coulson approaches her, figuring that they can take her to May. And as the woman, Agnes Kitsworth, walks past Coulson, they realize that she looks exactly like Ada. And Mallory Jansen did such a great job in this episode because she has to play two different characters. She has to play Ada, her regular robot, monotone type self, but she also has to play Agnes Kitsworth, who basically is the woman based on, the real human that Ada is based off of, which is not easy to do, but she did a pretty great job with that. And we see Ada, she removes the virtual reality helmet from Radcliffe, who's astonished to discover that they've built a world to keep May from escaping, and the LMD says that May is happy, and they go into the next room where the Superior is waiting, and he prefers it if Ada isn't there. The LMD steps out, and obviously, we can understand why. The Superior, I'd like that what the Superior says goes, but he says that they're undetectable and they have all the power that they need, and he tells Radcliffe that if he read the Darkhold while Radcliffe was sleeping, and Radcliffe angrily warns that it can corrupt the mind, and that's just not a good idea to do at all. Radcliffe is definitely very well aware of how much power the Darkhold really has. I mean, look at what happened to what was his name in the first half of the season. I don't remember his name, but the villain of the first half of the season, I can't think of his name right now, but look at what happened to him. He was corrupted by the book and everything, and I think Radcliffe's worried things gonna happen to him. So the Superior says they gave him a simple answer to eliminating the Inhuman problem, and he tells Radcliffe they have plans for a future together, and explains he's found an Inhuman to use as bait, and Radcliffe shows him a container of pure Terrigen crystals and assures them that the chemicals in its pure form is harmless to humans, and if a potential Inhuman is exposed, then the chemical will turn them, and the Superior says that he's counting on it. So this is definitely very interesting that the Terrigenesis is the thing that can harm Inhumans, which makes sense, obviously, why I can do that, but definitely this sets up, where the conflict's gonna go. I love the way his conflict is just beginning, but now that we know what's going on with the Superior, I'm definitely interested in seeing, what's gonna happen here. So Fitz supervises the establishment of LMD scanners throughout the base, and meanwhile we see Simmons tells Mace, who, thank God, is back in this episode. I was very happy to see Mace back, because it just didn't make sense that he wasn't there. They didn't give a reason why. He says that the serum he used is potentially lethal. She warns that each injection is increasingly likely to kill him, and tells Mace that he'll never be Captain America, even though he wants to be. He just isn't Captain America. He doesn't have the skill set, he doesn't have the heroics, he is just not him, and even though, Talbot kind of wants him to be, that's not who he is, and Mace says that he needs a strength because they're already a man down with May missing, and I like the way that Mace feels it's his duty, like, he should be the one to be Captain America, even if it's not possible, he wants to be, and he's not happy that they're going to bench him, and Simmons assures him that he'll find his place. So Fitz comes in, gives Mace a modified battlesuit complete with a serum delivery device built in. He realizes that the test didn't go well, and explains there's a heart monitor and a GPS in the suits, and Simmons then tells Fitz that Mace can't because it's too dangerous, and an agent then comes to collect Mace, and he goes to the director's office where Daisy is coordinating Inhuman relocation data, and I love seeing these two work together. Like I said, I think they really have not done a ton with them, but I like seeing them work together. I think they just have very good chemistry, and she tells Mace that he'll have to make sure that the UN backs their play when Nadir tries to get their location. because obviously, they know Nadir is hot on their trail, and they know Nadir is definitely a threat. So Mace then checks in with Coulson. He says that they've confirmed that Radcliffe modeled Ada on Agnes, an Australian expat now living in Spain. So now we know really what's going on. This is in fact Ada's human counterpart, and they figured that she can lead them to, she can lead them to May because she knows what's going on. So Mace says that he wants to be there for Coulson. Coulson says that he did his best to protect the Avengers when he was part of their team, and he wants, Mace to do the same thing. And again, I like the way these two are tag team. Like, they're not really rivals or anything. They're not trying to battle for control. They're listening to each other. They're doing what they need to do, and I really like seeing that. I like seeing them not, battling it out. I feel like on a lesser show, we would see that, but this show's not interested in that. The show is interested in dealing with mature conflicts, and I like the way the show's doing that. So Coulson approaches Agnes, finds her sketching. He says that he knows about the work she did with Radcliffe, and Agnes tells him that she doesn't want to do anything she doesn't want anything to do with Radcliffe, actually. She wants him gone, and she starts to walk away. So Mac then stops her, shows her a tablet with a photo of Ada, and Agnes says that Radcliffe actually did it, that he's the one who made this photo. And Terrence then visits Nadir, who's preparing a media onslaught against the Inhuman. She sees Terrence, who says that he needs a word with her, and Nadir says that she has no secrets from her staff. Terrence points out that she has the same blood as her brother. She insists that she's not an Inhuman, even though, they want her to think that she's not one, but Terrence warns that the gene is passed down. He smashes the Terrigen crystal, and nothing happens to Nadir, but Terrence is cocooned, and after a second, there's a massive explosion, which kills Nadir, and yeah, Nadir actually does die in this episode, which is pretty crazy to think about. So later, Daisy and the others watch a newscast about the explosion at Nadir's office, which just seems so random. Like, all of a sudden, Nadir's just dead. I can't believe it, which we'll talk about that later. But the report suggests the Inhumans may have targeted her, and Daisy had accounted for all of them that they know and figures that it's a setup. And the FBI confirms that there are 4 casualties, including Nadir, and Mace says it's time to show the world what S.H.I.E.L.D. really stands for, and Coulson wonders why Radcliffe made Ada look like Agnes. And he asks her if she was special to Radcliffe, and Agnes says that she was the one thing that Radcliffe couldn't quite fix. Even though he wanted to, he couldn't fix her. Why? Because she was human. And what mattered was that Radcliffe couldn't deal with failure, so he left her and essentially remodeled her as Ada. And Agnes admits that he has an inoperable brain tumor, we find out, and she's actually dying, which I like that we found this out, that Agnes is actually dying, and that's why she left. And when Mac offers his condolences, Agnes says that's why she left Australia, so she wouldn't have to hear people say that. So no one would know that, she actually was dying. And Coulson insists that they have to find Holden, and Agnes will help them. So Agnes refuses to have anything to do with Radcliffe, and she walks off. She doesn't want anything to do with him. So basically, we then see Mace and the team go to Nadir's office, and Daisy tells Mace to stay outside and deal with the press while they investigate the explosion. So Coulson tells Mac that they have Agnes's location and can bring her in, but Mac refuses to help. He wants to give Agnes some peace and warns that they don't know if May is really alive, so she can really help them with that. And Coulson refuses to give up on May and will make Agnes cooperate whether Mac helps or not. Because Mac, at this point, he really is very doubtful of the Inhumans, and we know that Mac doesn't really, not the Inhumans, the LMDs, he really does not like the LMDs. He wants nothing to do with them. He merely wants to stay out of it, but I like the way the Coulson's getting him to basically stay involved whether he likes it or not. And Fitzsimmons then examines the bomb site. They find no trace of bomb materials, and Daisy questions the witnesses and confirms that Terrence was there. They figure that Terrence is one of the other 3 bodies, and we see that Simmons suggests they do a facial recognition search, and they go to work, and Terrence then staggers to the safe house. The Superior grabs him by the throat. He points that they didn't tell Terrence to blow Nadir up, so we realize that this was, in fact, the Inhuman that's the Superior was talking about, and Terrence claims that Nadir turned and she exploded. It wasn't his agenda, she just did, and Terrence says that he doesn't remember how he got out, asks for a chance to protect himself. He swears his loyalty to the Superior. The Superior hugs him. The Russian then says that he's leaving the city because Terrence has made it too dangerous, and when he warns that S.H.I.E.L.D. will come for Terrence, Terrence promises to take them down. He will definitely do what he can to eliminate S.H.I.E.L.D., and I like the way this Inhuman that's against S.H.I.E.L.D. I actually like seeing that, and once Simmons spots Terrence, Daisy takes a S.H.I.E.L.D. team to the safe house. They blast their way in, and Coulson then visits Agnes and says that he planned to force Agnes to comply. However, he decided to start with an apology and does so, and he explains that Radcliffe took May from him and she means everything to him, and Agnes then lets him in. Coulson admits that it's personal. He tells Agnes that Radcliffe replaced May with an LMD, and they still don't know what happened to her, so he's definitely genuinely concerned, and I like, again, his determination, how he's doing whatever he can to get May, even if it's not possible, and I love seeing this fearless side of Coulson. I think it definitely does very well permeate the rest of the episode. So Coulson warns her that Radcliffe is under the influence of something dark and powerful, and he insists that May does deserve the chance to live on her own terms. She shouldn't be controlled by other people, and Agnes asks what he wants her to do, because, as we know, Agnes wants nothing to do with Radcliffe, so how the hell is she going to help him? I mean, she's dying anyway, so there's a lot of stuff here that doesn't make a lot of sense as to why he wants her help. So Daisy then transports Terrence and the other captives, watchdogs, via Quinjets, and she tells Terrence that they have him on tape walking into Nadier's office, as if Terrence was following the Superior's orders, and Daisy says if he gets them to Radcliffe, then she can make him a deal. But Terrence refused to talk to anyone but Mace. He doesn't want any, because again, he thinks that Mace is an Inhuman. She hits him with a seismic blast, repeats her question, and Radcliffe is working when he gets a message. He reads it, says that it's fate, and tells Ada that he has to leave immediately. So we see Radcliffe tells Ada to prepare the framework in his absence, which she points out that he's being very evasive, and Radcliffe explains that LMDs have to maintain the appearance of humanity, and he brings up a photo of Agnes, but assures Ada that she's unique, and again, he doesn't want Ada to know that she is an LMD. That's just something that he's programmed them all to do. He doesn't want them to know that they're not, real, and Radcliffe tells the LMD that Agnes needs his help and leaves, and Ada looks at a photo of Agnes, and you can see the look on Ada's face, that she's kind of, not enraged, but she's very much, fascinated by this photo, because I think she's thinking this gives her an opportunity to be human and actually not be a robot, which I like. I like that she's kind of under this intuition that this actually could be, a benefit for her rather than a struggle. This could actually help her. So we then see Ion, the Quinjet lab, and Fitzsimmons tests the debris for explosive debris. Fitz realizes that they found pieces of Inhuman husk, and Simmons figures that someone went through Terrigenesis and exploded, which we know obviously was true, and Fitz realizes that Terrence survived because he was the Inhuman. So they head for the cargo bay, and in the cargo bay, Mace figures that he might as well talk to Terrence. The S.H.I.E.L.D. agents then bring Terrence forward. He says they're the most famous Inhumans in the world, and he braces himself just as Fitzsimmons run in. The yellow warning. Daisy blasts Terrence back. Mace tackles the man. He manages to shove him into the containment unit, and Fitz runs forward to release it just as Terrence explodes. Simmons then slaps Fitz in anger for risking his life, and they hug him, and in the desert below, Terrence reconstitutes himself, yells in triumph, a station wagon pulls up, and the driver asks if Terrence was in an accident, and Terrence says that he was, asks for a ride, and I love how ruthless Terrence is. Like, he definitely is going to do whatever he can to, fulfill this task of killing S.H.I.E.L.D. He will definitely do that, and Jeffrey then tells Daisy that he fumbled the ball. There's no excusing it, and Fitzsimmons replays video of Terrence exploding, explains he can transform his body into a flammable gas that explodes when it reaches critical mass, and then he reconstitutes. Fitz figures that Terrence is still alive, and basically Mace asks how they can control him, but Fitzsimmons looks at Daisy. Daisy reluctantly agrees to try and generate a counter vibration, and Mace says that they have to act fast and do whatever they can to take him down. So Agnes then waits in the cafe and basically figures that Radcliffe isn't coming. I mean, he hasn't shown up, it doesn't seem like he cares that she's there, she just feels that there's no way that he's possibly going to come. So Coulson and Mac are monitoring her. Mac asks Agnes to wait a little longer. She agrees, and a waiter brings Agnes a phone. It rings, and Coulson tells her to answer it, and Radcliffe is on the other line, says that some people are after him, but Agnes tells him that she wanted closure, and she wants to see him face to face. She's dying here. She can't, the least that he can do is, go out and see her. Obviously, we know he can't, but she wants to see him in person, and he says that he can save her and asks her to let him keep his promise. Radcliffe tells her to get up and start walking. I mean, the least he could have done was FaceTime her, honestly. How hard is it to press that button and FaceTime someone? It's really not tough to do. I do it a lot, okay? It's really not that difficult of a process, as much as Radcliffe thinks that. But after killing the driver, Terrence drives to a motel, asks the clerk for his phone. He calls Superior, tells him that Terrigen made an Inhuman. Terrence says that he can still be a soldier in the war to protect humanity and promises to deliver S.H.I.E.L.D. to the Superior. So once Terrence hangs up, he tells the clerk to explode, and he starts to deteriorate, and on the Quinjet, Daisy tries to find the right counter vibration without success. Mace comes in, tells him that Terrence blew up a motel, so they're out of time, and as she walks, Agnes tells Holden that after he left, she threw away a print that he promised to bury her the original of, and Radcliffe says that he worked a way to cure death itself and opens the door of the car where he's waiting. So Coulson and Mac then head there while Radcliffe says he's made a framework, a world where death is obsolete. Inside of the framework, Agnes can live a full and happy life. And after a moment, she takes out the earbud. So you can tell that he genuinely does want to help her. Like, he genuinely cares about her. And he crushes it. She gets in the car with Radcliffe. Russians open fire on Coulson and Mac as they arrive, providing cover, and then they drive off. And Daisy then finds Terrence walking down the highway and confronts him. Simmons says that she's exhausted, thinking of how much kinetic energy Terrence needs to reform. And Daisy gets this idea that she detonates Terrence with a seismic blast. He reforms. Daisy blasts him again. And meanwhile, we see Simmons and Fisk prepare a containment chamber. And Simmons tells Mace that Daisy's trying to wear Terrence out. They spot Hummers coming and realize that they're the Russians and it's a trap, and Terrence reforms, tells Daisy all he has to do is deliver him. She blasts him again, tells Simmons that she can't keep it up much longer, so Mace tells Fitzsimmons that he's the blocker, goes to confront the Russians, and while Fitzsimmons drives to Daisy, once he's alone, he re-injects himself with the serum, winces in pain, runs forward, stops one Hummer with his bare hands, and the watchdogs then surround him. The Superior asks if he's bulletproof, and we obviously know he's not. We know he doesn't have these powers, and the Russian figures that they have the Inhuman director of S.H.I.E.L.D, and the watchdogs taser Mace unconscious. Remember, they are under the impression that he is in fact an Inhuman, and that he actually does have these powers that everyone says he has. Now, we know that he's not actually faking, and it's this great example of dramatic irony where we know how much pain he's really in, how this is really affecting him, how he could honestly be genuinely paralyzed and actually hurt here. So there actually is a lot of tension within the scene, knowing that episode. Like I said, that episode we got with Mace was going to play a much larger role, and it already kind of is, and I'm very happy to see that. So Daisy tells Terrence that he's a freak like her. He keeps coming. Daisy triggers him to explode. Fitzsimmons arrives and drives through Terrigenesis gases form, capturing it in the containment units, and Ada then tells Agnes that she's doing well, hooks her up to the framework, and Radcliffe assures Agnes that she'll never suffer again. She puts the virtual reality helmet on Agnes. The LMD downloaders Agnes' consciousness into the framework, and as they head back to base, Coulson tells Mac that Agnes made her choice. He admits that he would have done the same thing, and tells Mac that he's not letting go of, of May, even if it's not possible. He will do whatever he can to save her. He's not just going to stop. So Coulson figures from what Radcliffe said that May is the subject in the framework. There's no other possible scenario. She has to be the one in the framework. That's what this is all about, which, we know is true. I like the way that Coulson is starting to gather this up, and Agnes then finds herself in her old apartment with the painting that Radcliffe promised her in the real world. Ada warns Radcliffe that there's nothing they can do to sustain her in the real world. So Radcliffe kisses Agnes' hand as Agnes flatlines, and he says that it doesn't matter because Agnes' consciousness will live forever. And once he leaves, Ada removes a necklace from around Agnes' neck, puts it on her own, and we don't know really where that's going, but that is the way this episode ends. Really great stuff overall. Let's just get in this episode and where I think we're going to go from here. So overall, guys, what a revealing episode, honestly. I really did love the way this episode was done because we're starting to get more into Radcliffe's mind here. We already knew, what Radcliffe was planning on doing, and the fact that he wants to do what he can to kind of, I guess, turn everyone to an LMD again, and that's still not very clear to me what he wants to do. But we now know that Ada was, modeled the way she was because of Agnes, because he genuinely loves her, and he wants her to live forever, and he wants to do whatever he can to make sure that her legacy lives on, and that she, even though may physically be dead, mentally she'll never be dead, which is crazy to think about, but that's what he plans on doing, and I do think it's quite interesting the way this episode really dived deep into that concept and how it stuck with it. I thought it was definitely very interesting overall, and I can't wait to see really what's going to happen there. And again, Mallory Jansen did such a great job playing these two very distinctly different characters, and I'm very interested in seeing where that's going to go. But to the other end, there's Ada, of course, who Ada, we can tell, is very fascinated by Agnes, not just because of the fact that her and Radcliffe have such, very struggling and just really not deadly, that's not the word, very struggling, but very troubled relationship, that's the word I'm thinking, a very troubled relationship, and she wants to do what she can to kind of, I guess, live her life. Like, she really wants to be human. We've seen this before. She wants to be self-sufficient. She wants to be on her own. Radcliffe is convinced it's not possible, but I think through little gestures that we've seen Ada do, we can tell that it definitely is possible. Like, it's not impossible for her to actually be somewhat human. And I mean, if you guys have seen Ex Machina, the end of that movie, it is definitely possible for something like that to happen. So I definitely think that Ada is going to start rebelling and acting on her own, but again, we'll have to see. I like the way that Coulson is starting to gather information. Like, he definitely knows what's going on with May, and he's not, wrong. Like, she is, in fact, in the framework. We know that this is actually a dream world and things like that, so I'm interested in seeing what's going to happen there. And I like that this isn't the end of the LMD arc. I like that there still is a lot more we can do there. I like the way this is still going on. I thought that was definitely very interesting. It's everything else in this episode that I kind of have a problem with. I mean, as much as I do like the Superior, I just am not feeling that much of a threatening presence from him. When he's with Radcliffe, oh yeah, just seeing Radcliffe, we know how powerful Radcliffe really is. So to see Radcliffe Superior, the man that he's forced to, listen to and, give into his demands, even if he doesn't necessarily agree with him, he has to. I find that concept very interesting, and that's something I definitely did like seeing Radcliffe, basically obey the Superior no matter what he said. I thought that whole storyline was very interesting. But when we cut to the Radcliffe, the Superior and this Russian army has, I don't know, I just feel it's becoming a bit too much. I really do. We already have the Watchdogs. We already had Nadir. Why do we need this Russian army? I don't really understand that. And that I just feel didn't really need to be here. Terrence as well felt very, very ineffective. I don't really know why he needed to be. I get what the Superior was trying to do, but I don't know. It's just becoming a little bit too overstuffed, in my opinion, with how many threats really are against S.H.I.E.L.D. I get that they have a very bad reputation right now. I understand that Nadir kind of ruined them, but I am definitely interested in seeing where that's going to go, and especially with Mace. As we know, they think that Mace is an Inhuman. So at this point, the Superior, he's going to be very dumbfounded when he realizes that he's not an Inhuman and that he basically just captured a human director that really isn't going to do anything regardless. I mean, either way, they're still going to torture him, but I hope that he soon realizes that this is a human. This is not someone that's capable of having any powers, because he doesn't really have them. They just want him to think that to make him as powerful as possible, and I like the way that he's still willing to stick to that story, even if he doesn't want to. I think he's just starting to get used to it, but I think pretty soon he's going to have to come out and say, look, I'm not actually as powerful as you think I am, which is a sad moment, because you do want him to be able to be, as powerful and as, heroic as he possibly can be, but again, he's not a superhero. He is just a director, and I like seeing that with Mace. I think overall his arc has been very interesting. I like the vulnerability in him, and I like the way that Daisy's really helping him out with this. Even though things haven't been great for him, I like the way he is definitely starting to get into that story, and I like the way she ultimately did save him. I thought that definitely was well done. But killing Nadir was very unnecessary in my opinion. I don't know why Nadir had to die. I think one of the most interesting parts of the episode Wake Up was the twist where we realized that Nadir and Radcliffe were working together. Why didn't we ever see these two working together? We saw it, and now it seems like they just kind of abandoned it because they didn't know what to do with Nadir, and I'm kind of pissed off. Nadir was the one who got S.H.I.E.L.D. in the amount of shit they actually were in, so I don't know why she's not here anymore. I don't know why Nadir was just killed. I get it that it wasn't Terrence's idea, but to me it just seemed like they killed Nadir because they didn't know what else to do with her, and I don't think she's not come back as an Inhuman. There's no way she is an Inhuman, and it really does suck, because I actually really did like the threat of Nadir. I thought she was a very threatening and just but it was very understandable why she was after the Inhumans. Like, you understood this is why she doesn't like S.H.I.E.L.D, because she actually, thinks the Inhumans are going to cause more problems. You completely understand that. But with the Superior, I just feel this guy just wants to commit Genesis. Like, he basically is just, like I've said before, a neo-Nazi. That's essentially what he is, and I'm not really getting much else from him. I don't really get a reason, like, this is why he wants the Inhumans gone. I'm just not really getting much from him, and that really did affect some of the episode. However, the stuff with Radcliffe was so great, and the stuff with Mace, that it's not enough to really affect my enjoying this episode. I'm still really enjoying the season overall. Is it as good as the first half? No, I do think the first half was a lot better, and I think the first 3 episodes this half of the season were definitely better, but I'm still enjoying the season overall. I'm interested in seeing where it's going to go, and at the end of the day, I am still going to give Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 4, Episode 13, Boom, a 4 out of 5 or a B+. So over, guys, my review of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Let me know what you guys thought of this episode overall. Didn't dislike this episode in any way. Just very interested in seeing how they're going to juggle all these storylines, because there's a lot of things that are happening at once. But that's my review. Hope you enjoy it. We'll see you guys in my next video, which will be for the series premiere of Legion, which I am so hyped for, and I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.